Okay, when trimming a pot, what you need to do is get your pottery centered. And the easiest way to do that is to use your finger as a reference point. So you slowly spin the wheel and you can see the clay moving away from my finger and towards my finger, away from my finger, towards my finger. So when it comes around, it gets as close to my finger as it can. I stop the wheel and gently push it forward a little bit. Put my finger right back where I had it. And I continue to do that over and over again until there's no movement of the clay from my finger or towards my finger. It's important to make sure your hand is completely immobile, so your finger's not moving around with the clay. And when you get it centered, you need to lock it in place using some clay. So what I'm going to do is just make a wad of clay like that. And I'm going to hold the pottery in place, push my wad of clay up against the pottery, and then smear it down onto the bat to hold it in place. And I'll do that in 3 different places, making sure to spread the clay out evenly around. So I'm going to create a foot. So I'm going to even out this clay on top. I'm going to trim down a little bit, round it off, and then create the foot. So how you hold this tool really depends on the angle that you're trying to cut at. And a lot of it is just what you're comfortable with. My left hand, I let it gently rest on top of the clay so that I can feel if the clay comes loose. That way I can stop trimming right away if it moves. And then I let my hands touch. This just gives me more stability. Now when I start trimming, I want the wheel moving at a moderately slow speed. Not too slow, but fast enough that it's not going to take me forever to do this. And you can see that when I'm doing this, all that's coming off is just a thin little thread of clay. If I cut too deeply into the clay with the trimming tool, it will actually pull the pottery loose from the wheel, and then I'll have to stop and recenter and start again. It's very important that the clay stays centered so that your foot that you create is nice and round and symmetrical with the rest of your pottery. So I'm trying to create a little side here, a little part of my foot that I'm going to create. It's going to be almost straight up and down. And you can't be afraid to move the tool around. What's important to remember though is that the tool has to trim the clay all the way around before you move on. And you can see that this piece of pottery is not perfectly round. So you have to work with that. They usually are not perfectly round. It's pretty hard to be perfect. That's a part of things being handmade. So I'm just removing the clay I don't want on there. And I'm smoothing things down, getting rid of all my cut lines. And I've created basically the outside of my foot here. And I may come back to it and fine tune it a little bit, but for now that's good. Okay, so the next part I'm going to do is I'm going to work on the inside. So I'm going to start right in the middle. And I'm going to work from the middle out, just gently pushing on it just enough that it's removing these fine little strings of clay. real easy to get dizzy doing this, so you want to make sure you're focusing on what the tool is doing and not the spinning of the clay. So how much clay am I going to remove in here all depends on how much I removed on the outside. I want it to be even. I want the foot to be the same on the inside and on the outside, so that this depth right here and this depth right here should be the same. And that's looking pretty good. It's important to know how much clay you have to work with, so before you flip this over and attach it to the wheel, make sure you know how thick the bottom is. Now I'm just going to fine tune everything, make it look as nice as I can make it. And then this part right here, these edges right here where it comes across and drops down, I don't want a sharp edge on there. So what I'm going to do is gently press the tool up against the side, get the wheel spinning, and then slowly roll the tool right over that edge, and that'll round it off and make it look nice and neat. And I'll do the same thing on the inside. I'm just going to try to smooth everything down a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's nice if you get rid of all those cut marks. Makes it look a little nicer. Shows a little more effort put into the work. And that looks pretty good. I always want to put my name on everything. And if you want to, you could put the the year on it or something. If you want to document when you made it. Something like that. And that's trimming a foot. So now I can let it dry and then get it bisque fired.